Have you ever caught yourself saying something and then felt a little smaller afterward? Maybe it was something simple, something polite, something you've said for years without thinking twice. But somehow, those words made you feel less than who you truly are. Here's the truth. The words we speak shape how we see ourselves. And even more, they shape how others see us too. If you're a woman over 70, this stage of life should be about embracing who you've become, not minimizing your worth. But the language many of us use every single day can quietly chip away at our confidence without us even realizing it. Today, I want to talk with you about 12 words and phrases that may be stealing your power. And I say, talk with you, because this isn't about judgment. It's about awareness. And it's about helping you step fully into the dignity, the strength, and the beauty that you've earned through every year of your life. These 12 words might surprise you. Some of them may even feel like old friends. But by the end of this video, I promise you'll see them and yourself in a brand new light. And I want to encourage you to stay with me all the way through, because the very last word on this list is something most of us say almost every single day. And once you see the impact it's having on your spirit, you won't want to use it the same way again. Let's begin. 1. I used to be. How many times have you said something like this? I used to be more energetic. I used to be thinner. I used to be the one everyone counted on. At first glance, it sounds harmless, maybe even a little nostalgic. But listen closely. Each time you say, I used to be, you may be unintentionally sending yourself a message that who you are now is somehow less. The truth is, none of us are who we used to be, and that's not a loss. It's growth. You have lived through decades of change, challenge, love, loss, and learning. You've adapted, survived, and evolved. Why should your current self be compared to an earlier version, as if you've somehow declined? You haven't. You've shifted. You've matured. You've gained clarity. Maybe you don't have the same energy as you did at 40, but now you know exactly where to spend the energy you do have. That is power. So instead of saying, I used to be more confident, try this. I know myself better now, and I trust my instincts. Instead of saying, I used to be more active, say, I move in ways that feel good to me today. This small change in language can change how you feel about your present and about your future, because here's the beautiful part. You are not who you used to be. You are wiser, you are deeper, and you are still becoming. Let's move on. 2. As in too old, too tired, or too late. This tiny word sneaks into our sentences in ways that feel innocent, but carry a heavy weight. I'm too old to start something new. I'm too tired to try that. It's too late for me to change. Each time you say too in this way, you're placing a limit on yourself. You're telling your mind and the world that your time has passed, that the window of opportunity has closed. But that's not the truth. The truth is, if you woke up this morning, your story is still being written. Your timeline belongs to you, not the calendar, not society, not even your younger self's expectations. Instead of saying, I'm too old to exercise, try saying, my body has changed, so I'm finding new ways to stay active. Instead of saying, it's too late to make friends, say, I'm ready to meet people who truly understand me. Every time you replace too with a more open and compassionate phrase, you push your life forward, not backward. Let go of that quiet little word that puts a ceiling over your future. You don't need it anymore. 3. Lonely. Let's talk about a word that's both powerful and painful. Lonely. When someone says, I feel lonely, it's not just about being alone. It's about feeling unseen, unheard, or unneeded. And when that word becomes a regular part of how you describe yourself, it can start to become your identity. The more you say it, the more you believe it. And the more you believe it, the more you might pull away from the very connections that could lift you out of it. But here's something important. Loneliness is not a permanent state. It's a feeling. And like all feelings, it can change. Instead of saying, "I'm lonely," try saying, "I'm ready to reconnect," or "I'm looking for new ways to feel connected." You don't have to make huge changes. Small steps count. Call a friend, join a book club, smile at someone new, volunteer for something that matters to you. There are people out there who would be lucky to sit with you, talk with you, and laugh with you. But first, you have to believe you're still someone worth knowing, because you are. Loneliness doesn't define you. Your kindness does. Your stories do. Your strength does. Let's keep going. 4. Ugly. This might be one of the harshest words we use, especially when we use it on ourselves. Have you ever looked in the mirror and said something like, "Ugh, I look ugly today," or "These wrinkles make me look awful"? That word, ugly, might sound like just a moment of frustration, but over time, it chips away at how you see yourself. It tells your heart that your worth is tied to looking a certain way. And here's what I want you to hear clearly today. Aging is not ugly. It's human. It's earned. It's beautiful in its own right. The lines around your eyes? They're proof of years spent laughing and loving. The silver in your hair? That's wisdom on display. The body that doesn't move quite like it used to? That's a survivor. Instead of calling yourself ugly, try saying something kind, even just one small thing. My smile still lights up my whole face. My eyes hold stories no one else can tell. My presence is comforting, and that is beautiful. We've spent too many years being hard on ourselves. Let's not carry that habit into this season of life. You don't need to look like you're 20 to be radiant. You already are. 5. Sorry. When you're not actually sorry. Let's talk about a habit so many of us have picked up over the years, saying "marud" when we really don't need to. It starts early, often as a way to be polite or to keep the peace. But for many women, especially those of us who have spent decades caring for others, it becomes a reflex, a habit that slips into our daily conversations without us even noticing. Sorry I'm asking this. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry I don't know how. But here's the hard truth. Every time you say sorry when you're not truly at fault, you make yourself smaller. You send the message, to others and to yourself, that your needs, your thoughts, or your presence is something to apologize for. And after years of doing that, it can take a toll on your confidence. Now, don't get me wrong. A sincere apology when you've hurt someone is a beautiful thing. That's emotional maturity. But apologizing just because you exist? That's not necessary, and it's not fair to you. So, what can you say instead? When you're a few minutes late, instead of "sorry I'm late," say, "Thank you for waiting." When you need to speak up, say, "Excuse me, I'd like to add something." And when you don't know something, try saying, "I'm interested. Could you show me?" These changes may feel small, but they create space for you to speak with clarity and dignity. They remind you, and everyone around you, that your voice matters, because it does. You've earned it. The truth is, you've spent your life lifting others. You've shown up, given, sacrificed. So from now on, let's stop apologizing for simply being. You deserve to take up space, with confidence and without guilt. 6. Can't. There's a word we say often, so casually, so quickly, that we barely even register the message behind it. That word is can't. I can't figure out these new phones. I can't go hiking anymore. I can't learn something new at my age. But here's what's often hiding behind can't. Fear. Not laziness, not unwillingness, just fear. Fear of trying something unfamiliar, fear of failing, or sometimes fear that we'll feel silly for not already knowing how. The problem is, can't closes the door before we even see what's behind it. It shuts us down before we ask for help, before we explore, before we give ourselves the chance to surprise ourselves. Let me remind you of something important. Every single skill you have today was once something you couldn't do. Cooking, driving, raising children, managing a household, building a career, none of that came easy at first. But you tried. You figured it out. You grew stronger. And you succeeded. So let's reframe can't. Instead of saying, I can't use this computer, say, I haven't learned this yet, but I'm willing to try. Instead of, I can't travel anymore, maybe say, I'm exploring new ways to travel that fit my needs now. It's not about ignoring the real changes that come with aging. It's about keeping a spirit of curiosity and courage alive within you. Because that spirit, that's what keeps life vibrant. Don't let can't rob you of the chance to evolve. Say yes to trying, even if it takes time, even if you need help, even if you stumble. That's how we grow, at every age. 7. I can't complain. At first, it sounds polite, even gracious. I can't complain is something many of us say when someone asks how we're doing. It's a way to keep things simple, to stay upbeat, to avoid sounding negative, and over the years, it may have become your go-to answer. But let's take a closer look at what those words really mean. When you say, I can't complain, you may be telling yourself that your struggles don't matter, that others have it worse, or that expressing anything less than perfect makes you a burden. You may be hiding pain behind politeness, masking loneliness, grief, or exhaustion with a quick phrase that cuts the conversation short. Now, there's nothing wrong with gratitude. In fact, practicing thankfulness is one of the most powerful ways to nurture peace in our hearts. But gratitude and honesty are not opposites. You can be deeply grateful and still need support. So instead of saying, I can't complain, try saying something real, something that invites connection. Like, I'm managing, but I've been feeling a bit off lately. Or, things have been quiet, and I think I'm craving more connection. Even, I'm doing okay, but there's a lot on my mind these days. These responses don't weigh others down. They open a door to being seen, heard, and possibly comforted. And here's something else to consider. Sometimes I can't complain isn't hiding pain. It's hiding joy. You might be having a good day, a great week, or even a peaceful season of life. But out of modesty, you downplay it. You say, I can't complain, instead of, I'm actually doing really well, and I'm thankful. You're allowed to feel deeply. You're allowed to be honest when things feel hard, and you're allowed to share joy when your heart is full. Let's not shut down connection with a phrase that sounds safe but says nothing. You don't have to overshare. You just have to be real. Your feelings are valid. Your voice is valuable. And you deserve to be known, fully, honestly, and without apology. 8. Old. When you use it to define yourself. There's nothing wrong with aging. In fact, every wrinkle, every gray hair, and every scar tells a story of a life that's been fully lived. The issue isn't with growing older, it's with how we talk about it. Far too often, women over 70 use the word old in ways that are self-limiting or even self-defeating. I'm just an old woman. I can't do that. I'm too old. You know how it is when you're old. What happens when you speak this way is that you start to see your age not just as a number, but as a barrier. A box that defines what you're allowed to want, to try, or to feel. And that narrative doesn't come from nowhere. We live in a culture that glorifies youth and often overlooks the beauty and value of elderhood. But let me be clear, age is not a weakness. It is your strength. You've lived through eras of change. You've raised families, made sacrifices, learned hard lessons, and survived things many people couldn't even imagine. That's not something to hide behind the word old. That's something to stand tall in. So, how can we shift the language? Instead of saying, "I'm just getting old," try saying, "I've gained perspective." Instead of, "I'm too old for that," say, "That's new to me, but I might be interested." Start seeing yourself as seasoned, experienced, wise, or resilient. These words reflect the richness of your life, not the number on your birthday cake, because you are not just your age. You are a woman with depth. You are a collection of every story, every laugh, every tear, and every quiet moment of strength that brought you here. Don't reduce that to old. Call it what it is, a powerful, vibrant life still unfolding. 9. Just. This might be one of the smallest words in the English language, but it can have a surprisingly big impact, especially when we use it to shrink ourselves. I just wanted to check in. I'm just saying. I just think maybe. Sound familiar? We use the word just to soften our statements, to make them seem less forceful, less direct, and often less confident. For many women, especially those raised to be nice, gentle, or polite, this habit is deeply ingrained. But the truth is, every time you say just, you take a strong, clear message and water it down. Let's say you want to share your opinion in a group setting. If you say, "I just think we should try it this way," it sounds like you're not sure. Like your opinion is a suggestion, not a contribution. But if you say, "I think we should try it this way," it lands differently. It sounds confident. It sounds like someone worth listening to. Here's the thing. You are worth listening to. You've lived a full life. You've raised children, worked jobs, made tough decisions, and helped others through hardship. You don't need to minimize your voice to make it more acceptable. You've earned the right to speak with clarity. So the next time you catch yourself saying, "I just wanted to call and say hi," try, "I wanted to call and say hi." When you hear yourself say, "I'm just checking in," shift it to, "I'm checking in because I care." It might feel a little bold at first, but in time you'll notice the difference. People will listen more closely, you'll feel more grounded, and most importantly, you'll begin to reclaim a sense of authority over your words and your presence. Language is powerful. You don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to stop minimizing yourself. Drop the just. Say what you mean. You don't need permission to take up space. 10. I should. Let's talk about one of the heaviest words we carry, not because it's loud or offensive, but because it's wrapped in quiet guilt. The word should. I should exercise more. I should visit my family more often. I should have saved more money. I should have taken better care of myself. Sound familiar? Most women over 70 have an internal list of shoulds that plays like background music throughout the day. Sometimes it shows up as regret about the past. Other times, it shows up as pressure in the present. Either way, it leaves you feeling like you're always falling short. The problem with should is that it's rooted in either obligation or self-blame. It suggests that you're not doing enough, being enough, or living up to some invisible standard, often one you didn't even choose for yourself. But here's the truth. You've already done so much. You've cared for others, often at the expense of your own needs. You've juggled responsibilities, made sacrifices, and gotten through hard times. If now is the time in your life when you finally slow down, rest more, or choose joy over duty, that's not wrong. That's earned. So instead of saying, "I should go for a walk," try saying, "I want to move my body because it feels good." Instead of I should visit them, say, I choose to visit because it brings me connection. And when it comes to the past, trade in I should have done more for I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. This small shift from should to choose or want can feel like lifting a weight off your shoulders. It replaces guilt with empowerment. It turns pressure into purpose. You are not a project to be fixed. You're a person to be celebrated, just as you are today. Let's let go of should. You've already proven yourself. Now it's time to enjoy the freedom you've earned. 11. It's always been this way. This phrase may sound simple, even comforting. After all, routines give us structure. Familiarity gives us a sense of safety. And when you've spent decades doing things a certain way, changing them can feel unnecessary, even unsettling. But here's the thing. Saying it's always been this way can quietly close the door on growth. It can keep you rooted in habits, beliefs, or situations that no longer serve who you are today. You might say, I've always handled it on my own. That's just the way our family is. I've always eaten like this. I'm too old to change now. But every time you say that, ask yourself, is it still working for me? You see, longevity doesn't always equal effectiveness. Maybe you've always kept your feelings to yourself. But what if sharing more honestly would bring you closer to the people you love? Maybe you've always said yes to everyone. But what if setting boundaries could finally give you peace? The truth is, always is not a reason. It's a habit, and habits can be changed. At any age, you don't have to turn your life upside down. This isn't about throwing away your traditions or identity. It's about giving yourself permission to evolve, to ask, is there a gentler way, a healthier way, a more joyful way? Instead of saying, it's always been this way, try, I'm open to a better way now. I'm learning what works best for me today. You are not the same person you were 10, 20, or 40 years ago. So why hold yourself to the same patterns? Every new chapter of your life deserves a new mindset. Let the past teach you, but don't let it trap you. You get to choose how the rest of your story unfolds. And that, my friend, is a kind of freedom most people never realize they have. 12. I'm fine. It's probably the most common response we give, and the most misleading. Someone asks, how are you? And without thinking, we say, I'm fine. Even when we're overwhelmed, even when we're hurting, even when we really deeply need someone to ask again. I'm fine has become a shield. It's what we say to avoid vulnerability, to keep the conversation light, to not bother others. And for many women over 70, it's a habit born from decades of putting others first and swallowing pain for the sake of peace. But here's the problem. When we constantly say, I'm fine, we start to believe it, even when our hearts are asking for more connection, more understanding, more care. You don't have to tell everyone your life story, but there's power in honest answers. Try saying, I'm okay, but I've had a heavy week. I'm getting by, but I've been feeling a little lonely lately. Or even, thank you for asking. I could really use a conversation today. Those small moments of truth build real connection, the kind that reminds you you're not alone. On the other hand, when things are going well, don't downplay that either. You deserve to share your joy just as much as your struggles. So instead of defaulting to, I'm fine, pause. Ask yourself what you really feel, and know that expressing it gently, honestly, is not weakness. It's courage. Your voice deserves to be heard, not hidden behind politeness or habit. Let your heart speak. You never know who's waiting to hear the real you. If you've made it to the end of this conversation, I want to take a moment, not to teach, not to correct, but simply to thank you. For listening, for reflecting, and most of all, for caring enough about yourself to consider letting go of the words that no longer serve you. You see, language is more than communication. It's identity. It's the way we narrate our own stories, day after day. And for many women over 70, the words we've carried, like just, sorry, can't, or I'm fine, were never meant to make us feel small, but somehow they did. But that ends here, because every time you speak with clarity instead of hesitation, every time you replace guilt with choice, every time you choose to describe yourself not as old, but as wise, radiant, and still becoming, you're rewriting the script of how the world sees older women, and more importantly, how older women see themselves. This isn't about pretending life is easy. It's not about toxic positivity or ignoring pain. It's about stepping into the fullness of who you are now and honoring every part of your journey that brought you here. So the next time one of those old phrases slips into your thoughts, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this how I want to speak about my life, my worth, my future? Because you deserve words that reflect your strength, not your fear, your growth, not your guilt, your truth, not your habit. And you don't have to do this alone. You are part of a generation of women who are quietly and powerfully reshaping what aging looks like. Let's continue to do that together. If this message spoke to you today, I hope you'll leave a comment and share one word or phrase you're ready to let go of. You never know who else might feel empowered just by reading your words. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel, Wise Elders Insight, where we celebrate wisdom, honesty, and the beauty of growing older together. Until next time, stay open, stay kind, and stay true to yourself. Because you are not just a woman over 70. You are a woman of power, grace, and endless possibility.